Just when you thought it was safe to go outside,
It's the all-new. The all-new.
The Rant with David King.
Everyone, welcome to The Rant. I'm your host, David King, all new. Improved, repackaged, repurposed with a new label slapped on it and sent your way. Live and local on this Monday, the 6th of June. Fun fact anniversary of D-Day. It's good to be back. I was away for way too long, and I apologize. But I am here, and it's new intro, new format, new everything. So just some of the things that are going to be new. One of the things that I was hearing, because I listen, some people love my politics, and some people don't like my politics. Some people like the health advice. Some people don't like the health advice. Some people like listening to the sports. Some people like listening to everything. And so what we're going to do, and you'll notice on the new show, is you'll see a kind of parentheses by each episode of what the main topic will be. It'll be like health, sports, news, politics, religion. So that way you can go, oh, yep, don't want to listen to that, or, oh, I do want to listen to that, and then you can follow it. And then what I'm planning to do is follow the analytics of that to get a better idea of what my people like to hear. But it's been a crazy year for me. I know it's probably been a crazy year for all of you. And needless to say, it's been hectic as a whole in this country, with massive inflation, the rising gas prices, shortages of baby formula. Gas is now, I think on average, the average is over $5. Let's pull that up. I want to say it is over $5. Let's see. National gas average. So the national gas average for regular is going to be $4.86. They're saying that it will get up to $7, potentially close to $7 or just over $6 before the end of the summer. And in places like California, they're talking like double digits. So it's a tough time. It's been a very hectic year, to say the least, for so many people. And it's been a very busy year for me. The work was slammed. I was all over the place. Things have calmed down a little bit. So that's one of the reasons why I'm happy to be back. But also I just couldn't stay away. So I was excited to get back to the podcast. All my other shows will be back on a regular aired format here as well this week. So good to be back here. I want to welcome you to The Rant. Today's topic: is it time to change, modify, or altogether remove the Second Amendment? The reason why I'm talking about this today is it's actually, well, it's just that time of year again. It's that time of the season where we go 3 or 4 years, it feels like, and then there's a shooting, and then we have the same conversation about, gun control, or what guns should be allowed, or who should be allowed to get them, and this, that, and the other. And it's a pretty polarizing conversation. It generally can be, there is definitely camps, and there's very little room in the middle on either side of the issue. But mass shootings, they're awful. And people who commit them are sick and evil. But why do they happen? And what can we do to solve them? Because ultimately, that's what this is all about. After the most recent shooting in Texas, politicians certainly did not waste time at all. They came out of the woodwork almost immediately, the same day, to give their opinions on the matter, quickly making it a very political issue. And as always, it's the same argument. One side barks more gun control, while the other side barks back about 2A, Second Amendment. And in the end, very little happens except a sudden spike in gun sales from panicked gun enthusiasts, some being like myself. So what is the answer then? What should we do as Americans to solve the mass shooting crisis in this country? Now, make no mistake, I actually don't believe this is really a crisis in this country, at least not in the way the media wants you to believe it is. That being said, this is still a very awful and atrocious act, and there needs to be something done to prevent it as best as possible so we can have less of these. But what is the best way? What can we really do to stop something like what happened in Texas, the church shootings in South Carolina, et cetera, et cetera? Well, it's clear, though, on the left, they want to implement gun control. It's the low-hanging fruit that they always go for. What kind of control is a little unclear. Some are saying ban AR-15s. Others are saying weapons of war, whatever those are. And so or some of them are simply going after everything in a broad spectrum. And we heard the president go as far as to say that the 9mm round is impractical, too powerful, and should be banned from purchase. Well, the 9mm, just so you know, is one of the smaller caliber rounds that a handgun can fire. It's why it's such a popular round, because while it is a smaller round, it certainly has some power to it. Nothing like say a 40 caliber or a 45 or above, but it's a small to slightly mid-sized round. It's very easy to shoot. It's plentiful. Law enforcement use it. The military use it. And so because of that, you can get it just about anywhere. And the fact that it has very low recoil to it, it makes it easy for most people to fire it effectively. But it is not as powerful or as damaging as the president would make you believe. I think there's no doubt that their position is to go after the ownership of firearms, and I doubt it would stop at a 9mm or an AR-15. Just recently, we saw Justin Trudeau issue a ban on all handguns, the sale and purchase, transfer of handguns in Canada. He was so proud of himself, so much so that I saw an article here today that it looks like it backfired, because just before that went into effect, Canadians bought up as many handguns as they could. It's very similar to what happens here. It's almost as if Democrats work for the big gun companies, because every time they go to the podium and start talking about gun control, every American goes to the store and buys up as much ammo and guns as they possibly can. But what would banning a firearm of any kind, how would it stop a mass shooting? Well, it's hard to know for sure, but we can look at examples of gun bans and restrictions and how gun crime reflects that. You don't have to look very hard either. Chicago is probably one of the best examples of the effects of gun laws. Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. And yet, as of 2022, many areas have seen an increase in gun crime at a rate of 100%. So keep that in mind. Just over the Memorial Day weekend last month, Memorial Day weekend alone, 5 people were shot dead and 21 were injured. And that's a light weekend for Chicago. The argument always made by policymakers is that the guns come from outside states, and fair enough. And that might be true, but that just proves the point that I've always made, which is gun laws only affect the law-abiding citizen and not the criminals. If a person is hell-bent on getting a firearm, they will get one. And with over 150 million illegal firearms in circulation in the U.S., it'll be easier for the criminal to get the firearm than it will be for the government to prevent it. And just on a grander scale of that so-called, well, the law would work if people would just stop bringing guns across the border into Chicago. Well, listen, this kind of goes back to my argument with the war on drugs. The war on drugs has been an absolute failure in this country. And one of the biggest reasons is because of our porous borders. The cartels bring drugs into this country illegally all the time. Now, we capture a lot of it, but we don't get all of it, clearly. And we're not getting very much of it anymore today, which is why we have a rise in overdoses from fentanyl. What do you think will happen if you ban every firearm in the United States? The law-abiding citizens won't have these weapons, but the cartels and the smugglers, they will bring them in through the southern border. Guns will still get into this country. You're only hurting the law-abiding citizen. So maybe gun bans don't work, but we can still pass common sense gun laws, right? I certainly love that line. Common sense gun law. The follow-up to that is always expanding background checks. But even that idea does not point toward anything concrete that would stop a mass shooting. Many of the recent shooters legally purchased their firearms and passed the federal background check. And not to mention, aside from some private sales, not all, gun dealers, both at gun shows and in their stores, have to perform background checks prior to selling someone a firearm. So background checks won't stop mass shootings either. And we already have massive amounts of gun laws already on the books. Laws that prohibit, for instance, the carrying of firearms in schools. Almost all schools are gun-free zones. And yet they are one of the largest targets of mass shootings. We've also seen an uptick at churches and places of worship. Why? It's simple. Because they're soft targets. These mental people might be insane, but they know that they don't want to meet immediate resistance. So they go to these places where they know firearms are banned, or it's very unlikely that someone will be carrying them. Yeah. So banning the carrying of firearms in locations doesn't work either. So what is the answer to the shooting in Texas? Well, it's really not that simple. And it is not a guarantee, but it'll be far more effective than a common sense gun law, at least in my opinion. These are some ideas that I believe, or these are some things that I think we could do as a country that I think are common sense, that we could meet in the middle and all agree upon. We can argue the legality of 2A all we want, and I can debate till I'm blue in the face, and I have. The reality is that the people who want to ban firearms hate guns, and it's not really about the mass shooting is just an opportunity for them to get out and hoist their flags and go after the Second Amendment because they don't like firearms and they don't like you owning them. And the thing about it is there's a million reasons why they don't like it, and it's not always about power or anything like that. Certainly you can make that argument for politicians, but the private citizen who doesn't like guns probably just doesn't like the idea of you owning guns because they have a false idea of what a gun is and the problems with guns. So we can argue about 2A all we want, but what is something we could actually do? What is something that would potentially stop future mass shootings? Well, first and foremost, we should increase security in all public schools. Airports do it, banks do it, post offices even have it. Most places, especially places where they say you're not allowed to have a firearm, that are considered valuable areas or valuable facilities with valuable people in it or valuable goods in it, tend to have a heightened security system in place. Why is it that I can just walk into a public school unannounced? There needs to be tightened security. There should be a check-in at all entrances, and back doors and fire escapes should be locked from the outside at all times. There's no reason that a classroom door shouldn't be blast-proof. In other words, classroom doors should be bulletproof and have strong locks on the inside in the event that an active shooter enters the building. So you can lock the door, and you don't have to worry about someone blasting the lock or damaging the door and getting through. The teacher can secure the door and move the kids to the back of the classroom. And classrooms should have windows large enough for egress to the outside. Now, I believe that this is a code requirement already in most buildings, but every room where kids will be inside of need to have a window for egress or a door, something other than the entrance to the room. So that door can lock and they can escape the building and leave with safety. Well, Dave, it's just sad that we even have to take these measures. We shouldn't have to bulletproof schools. I agree. It sucks that we have to bulletproof schools. But banks shouldn't need a vault with a door that's 2 feet thick with solid steel, but yet all of them do. And they have serious security that gets cops there lightning fast. We shouldn't have to have all that, but we do. And the reason is because we live in a broken world with really bad people. And pretending that you can legislate insanity is absolutely ridiculous. It'd be like banning bicycles to prevent head injuries when you crash. Doesn't make any sense. Wear a helmet. Secure the schools. 2, politicians need to stop ignoring the mental health of this nation. This is the biggest issue. And you get eye rolls from people on the left, and I don't understand why. It's like they want to talk about the mental health of the LGBTQ community. They want to talk about the mental health of the minority communities. But when you talk about the mental health of people who are clinically insane or are under a lot of stress or nihilistic to the point where they want to shoot up a school full of innocent kids, they seem to want to roll their eyes. They just want to talk about banning guns. Mental health is the clearest problem in all of these events. The Columbine shooters suffered from an extreme level of nihilism to the point where their remedy was the extermination of the human race. This is a fact. You can look it up. They had a whole manifesto on it. Between 2016 and 2019, childhood diagnosis of anxiety rose by 27%, while depression risk rose by 24%. Yet the analysis also indicates that about a fifth of kids who need mental health services are not getting them, a figure that held steady across all surveys. And the COVID lockdown certainly didn't help the matter either. But there is a continuation in decline in mental health overall with kids. What's the answer to this? I'm not entirely sure. There's a sharp decline in physical fitness as well in kids, which could be a correlation, as well as a decline in diet. I can tell you from a solid fact that the lack of physical fitness, the decrease in diet, and the fact that there is so much, these kids are so attached to their smartphones and technology, that is playing a huge part. But no one is going to admit that. Studies are showing that more now than ever that physical fitness does more to help brain function and development than so-called brain games. In other words, puzzles, crossword puzzles, doing arithmetic. The things that help your brain long-term is actual physical fitness. But it's not just kids. It's adults too. 4 in 10 report mental health issues, a sharp rise from 1 in 10 in 2019. This is a crisis, and it's getting worse. I don't have the answers to this problem. I really don't. And no one person will. But this needs to be a conversation among doctors, parents, policymakers. And it needs to be a genuine one with genuine ideas. No finger pointing. No lambasting. We need to look at this and be honest with each other. If we really want to solve the problem of the mental health of this country, then we really need to have a genuine conversation and put everything out on the table. It's just that simple. And everyone has to be willing to listen and discuss. But people don't want to do that. Instead of talking about physical fitness, people want to talk about body shaming and accepting people for who they are. We want to adapt the idea that being overweight is beautiful. Well, nobody's saying you're not a beautiful person, but being overweight is very unhealthy and it comes with a lot of problems. And we should have a serious conversation about those problems. And the fact that there are so many overweight and obese kids, it's not a good thing. And if you think that doesn't do anything to someone's mental capacity, you'd be very wrong. Your diet has a huge effect on your overall mental health. And these kids are eating nothing but junk. And unfortunately, the FDA, they're not going to help because they got the wrong idea too on in terms of food science. The third thing that I think is a problem is we have to end the attack on the nuclear family. Now, this is a big one. This is probably barely second to the mental health. For the better part of my life, I'm 33 years old, I've seen a decline in the emphasis of the nuclear family. That is, for those of you who do not know what the nuclear family is, 2 parents in the home, a father and a mother, actively raising their kids together. Almost every mass shooter was brought up in a home with one parent, usually only the mother. We need to stop pretending that fathers are not important to rearing children. It's no disrespect to single mothers. You're doing the best you can. Most of you are probably really good mothers. But a father brings the other link to parenting that is necessary to raising kids. And the same can be said for the mothers, for the motherless homes with single fathers. The mothers bring the other link necessary to rearing kids. Both parents are needed as God intended. According to a census, 19.5 children in the U.S., that is 1 in 4, live in a home without a father. Kids in fatherless homes are 279% more likely to carry guns and deal drugs. Children living without a father are 47% more likely to grow in poverty. 85% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of dropouts come from fatherless homes. 60% of youth suicides are in fatherless homes. With both parents present, mother and father, the kid is 55% more likely to enroll in college and has a higher percentage of success overall in life, including earnings. We need to raise our children and teach them the importance of being married, staying married, and raising kids under a 2-parent home. This isn't some joke. This isn't some sort of, I tried. You have an obligation. When you bring a life into this world, you have an unbelievable obligation to that child to make sure they have the best life they can possibly have and to be there for them in all aspects of their life and to make sure that they get the proper parenting that they need. The U.S. as a whole continues to push against the grain on this issue, and the results continue to speak for themselves. As we move further away from the nuclear family, the overall anxiety of the world of children goes up. The overall mental health of the children continues to decline. They continue to commit more crimes. We see more mass shootings. We see the level of depression in children like we've never seen before. As we move toward more single-parent homes, polyamorous relationships, and an increase in divorce along with a decrease in marriage, the country's overall health in general and crime continue to worsen. It's not a coincidence that America has been in a sharp cultural and economic decline since the dismantling of the nuclear family. These are just 3 solutions that I offer up. That would not restrict the rights of any American, that would solve the problem, that could potentially solve the problem of mass shootings. It certainly would help. I don't believe there's ever, I don't think there's not one issue that will solve this 100%. But at the end of the day, solving this problem does not really seem to be what the policymakers really want to do. After all, dozens of Americans, including children, are gunned down every week in Chicago, and we don't hear a thing from them. And now suddenly they're paying attention. And with 24 hours of the attack, they want to take away your right to bear arms. And mentioning any other solutions will get you shouted down. That is what is going on. Every day, kids are shot, killed in cities like Chicago, Minneapolis. And we don't hear a thing from any of them. We hear a school shooting like this, and it's not a minority or a white issue. There were minority kids in this school. A lot of them were Hispanic. They were gunned down. So you can't pull the race card. They don't care. This is not about protecting children. This is about the federal government getting away with taking away your Second Amendment rights. They've been trying to do it for a while. Now, I'm going to actually take it a step further because I believe that it goes further than that. I actually think that the Democrats are going to use this situation to end the filibuster. It's a prediction that I have. They may very well not. But I really think that this is an opportunity for them to justify going after the filibuster in the Senate. They have said it before that they want to get rid of it. They have not had a justifiable reason. But if the justifiable reason to them is to protect the kids and the Republicans refuse to vote on common sense gun legislation, this would probably be the very thing they will use to try to end the filibuster. That could be very dangerous. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, Green Party, Libertarian, doesn't matter what you are, ending the filibuster is a very dangerous thing because it is a level of protection to stop one party going rampant over another. I wouldn't want Republicans doing it, and I certainly don't want the Democrats to do it. We have to have checks and balances. I would rather these folks in D.C. do almost nothing than do the things that they actually want to do. And that's the opening rant. Some top news stories of the day. Oh, man. So A couple things. If you thought maybe you woke up in an upside down world, you could be right. As if things did not seem strange enough. An article coming out of the great city of San Francisco, a place that was once beautiful and great to visit. This article headline reads, San Francisco proposes to spend $6.5 million to end homelessness for transgender people. That is correct. You read that right. All 400 of them. By the way, there's over 7,000 homeless in San Francisco alone and 160,000 overall in the state of California, but they wanted to donate $6.5 million to 400 of them. I saw this and I just was like, this is a perfect example of our priorities in this country. We're so hell-bent on this tribalism, this idea of putting people in their groups and focusing on these groups, when in reality, we should just be treated as Americans. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you are, or what you claim to be. The fact of the matter is, if you live in this country, you're an American. We should all be treated equally under the law. That's what the Constitution says. $6.5 million to end homelessness for transgender people is just ridiculous. Why not $6.5 million to end homelessness for all people? Why not put a little bit more money into ending homelessness for the entire state, since it's a huge problem right now in the state of California? These are the people that want to run the world. These are the people that want to tell you how to live your life, and they are the same people who want to take away your Second Amendment. It's absolutely head-scratching. And the same people, this isn't new news, but this was a headline that I wanted to touch on because, well, I'm a little bit bitter about it, and I wanted to rant a little bit about it. But as we know, and as everybody has heard, the swamp has recently voted to send Ukraine $40 billion in aid to fight Russia. Now, meanwhile, what I opened up this rant about and what we talked about, which was shortages, inflation, people who are struggling to now pay their bills. They have raised the interest rates on home loans. There's no telling what the effects of that will be. With everything going on in this country and us trying to rebound back from the coronavirus, and much of this rampant inflation is due to the spending habits of DC, devaluing the dollar. They think in their greatest wisdom that it's best to send $40 billion for a country that's, by the way, not a democracy, to fight Russia. You have to wonder why. And I know people who listen to this, they're going to go, oh, you're a Russian sympathizer. No, I'm not a Russian sympathizer. I hate Russia. I hate Putin. They're not good people. He's not a good person. It's not a good country. They have a long history of atrocities. They got a lot to come back from, and they're not really helping their case by going after Ukraine. But I wondered to myself, why are we getting so involved? Why are we sending so much money to them? Why not $40 billion to, I don't know, end the transgender homelessness in San Francisco? Why $40 billion not to help within the gas shortages or I don't fix the infrastructure, do something. Instead of giving it away to a country that, well, frankly, would provide nothing for us. It seems like a losing deal and proposition for us. As always, we look over to DC, and DC's looking onward to somewhere else. They're ignoring us and not caring about the problems here in this country. Now, you could say, well, David, we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time and do both. We can fix the problems in the United States, meanwhile helping out Ukraine. That may be true 20 years ago, but now with the inflation and the debt ceiling going through the roof, I would actually make the argument that the days of the United States issuing checks, blank checks to these nations and providing security to them, those days need to come to an end. It's time that the United States dial it back. It's time that here in America, we put America first. It's what Trump did. I know you may not like Trump. I really don't care. The fact of the matter is what he did worked. We had a great economy. America was first. Businesses were booming. Businesses were coming back. Industry was going back up. Everything seemed to be working out pretty well. And then with the swipe of a pen and executive actions, Biden undid all that along with other Democrat politicians. We became once again reliant on the rest of the world, undoing much of what President Trump decided to do. And now look what we have. We don't even have enough chips to go in cars. I went to Detroit a few months ago to visit my family and play in a golf tournament. And I remember flying into Detroit and I saw these vast parking lots full of vehicles, just loaded with cars. And I thought to myself at first, like, wow, they got a lot of cars here, because here in Georgia, the lots are all empty, but man, they've got a lot here. And then I realized, oh yeah, those are overflow lots. What I was seeing as I was flying in, and also while we were driving around, were the overflow lots for Ford and GM and other big manufacturers to store their vehicles until they could get chips for them. Most of our chips come from Taiwan. Because of the shutdowns and lockdowns, there's a huge shortage of chips. And we're having a hard time getting them here. If y'all remember, about a year ago, there were a bunch of freighters sitting off the coast of the ocean, and they couldn't unload because they had nobody to unload them. This is a simple fix. Make them here. Now, I know that'll take time. You got to find the land, build the infrastructure and the buildings, and put it all in place. But these are things. This is one more reason why we need to have things done here and not elsewhere. We are far too dependent on other nations. And if we needed another lesson in that, we are getting one now with this war in Russia. Biden, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided to issue a ban on trade with Russia. Well, guess what? 25% of our grain and our good, a lot of other goods come from Russia. We get gas from Russia. Oil from Russia, as I should say, not gas, but oil for producing fuel and other things, petroleum. We get grain, we get birch. I'm a wood builder. You want to talk about the effect of this ban? I build a lot of cabinetry. That is one of the bread butters of my shop. Well, as everyone knows, plywood has gone through the roof. Well, cabinet grade plywood has gone through the roof as well. I'm paying probably $20 to $30 a sheet more than I was a year or so ago. But here's the kicker. The Baltic birch, Russian plywood, comes from Russia. It's plywood, the Baltic birch, the tree. The wood is the good birch comes from Russia. I didn't know this until about a month ago. But apparently the best crop, the forest, come from that region. Well, guess what? We can't get that now. So now we're getting subprime birch from other nations, which means a lesser grade of plywood. But yet I am paying more for the plywood. I checked the plywood the other day. I looked at the layers and I could tell, yeah, this is actually a lower grade than what it used to be. And so it's affecting everybody. I mean, it's affecting everyone from the farming industry, because now they can't get pesticides, to gas and oil, to me as a cabinet maker. It's unbelievable how much this ban on doing trade with Russia has on us. But that is a great example of why we need to do more to produce products here in this country. Now, obviously, there are some things you just can't get here. For instance, Russian birch trees don't grow in America. Hey, things happen. I don't agree with the ban. I don't. I think we should still be doing trade. I don't even think we should be involved with this war in Ukraine. I don't think we should have sent them $40 billion, which, by the way, that was just one lump sum of money we sent them. I can't remember what the total is, but it's probably more closer to 100 as a total. The reality of it is these people in DC do not care about us, both left and right, Republican and Democrat. They're all in it for something bigger than we could possibly see for themselves. We don't know what's going on. We have no idea. They're a good old boy club. We're not invited, and we're just the peasants. Go back to work, mind your own business, and just do what you're told. We'll let you know when you can go to work and not go to work, and what vaccines you should get and what vaccines you shouldn't get. And by the way, who you should support globally and who you shouldn't support globally. Now moving on to emails and comments. This is the last segment. As you can tell, there are segments to the show. There's the opening rant, which was my rant about 2A, and then there was the top news and stories of the day. This could also potentially be an interview, and then we move into emails and comments from people like you. But for this episode, I'd like to address a comment made by former Vice President Joe Biden. He said that the Constitution and the Second Amendment aren't absolute. That's a very terrifying and bold thing to say for the President of the United States. Well, they're both are definitely absolute. There's no doubt about that. The Second Amendment, after all, states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Key word there at the end, shall not be infringed. In other words, you can't touch the right to formulate a regulated militia, and to bear arms. Another key point to point out here, that nowhere in the Second Amendment does it specifically state what arms or for what purpose at all, does it? Not at all. It doesn't. Often the left likes to say, well, you don't need an AR-15 for hunting, but that's not what the 2A is about. There's no mention of hunting in the Second Amendment. It actually clearly lays out actually really what the Second Amendment is for, a well-regulated militia. Well, what is a militia? It's defined as an army composed of ordinary citizens rather than professional soldiers. And if it's an army and it's utilized as a defense in times of crisis, then that would mean that the Second Amendment actually clearly states what arms and what purpose those arms are for. Certainly not hunting, but fighting tyranny with arms that a professional soldier would use. Oh no, that means weapons of war, whatever those are. Tyranny comes in many forms, for the record. Doesn't necessarily mean the local government or federal government. It could be tyranny from an outside force. You don't have to take my word for it either. The founders themselves wrote many letters, including in the Federalist Papers, on the topic of owning firearms. Thomas Jefferson, one of the biggest proponents of bearing arms, these founders understood how important private ownership was, how important private ownership of firearms was at the time. It helped them defeat the largest superpower and gain their freedom. That superpower being Great Britain. They also knew history. They knew a nation of people unarmed could never stand up against the government if it became tyrannical. That in many cases, unarmed, unprotected citizens have been murdered, sold to slavery, and displaced by dictators. A well-armed society keeps the government in check. Maybe that's why Democrats don't like you owning guns. A well-armed society also keeps other countries in check. After all, Japan knew how hard it would have been to invade the mainland in the U.S. during World War II. They understood they would be met with force beyond just the military. What a fantastic deterrent. So no, Joe, the Constitution is absolute, and so is the Second Amendment. The only thing that's absolute is that in the event that you become a psychopath, there are things that we can do to get you out of office. Our rights are given by our Creator, not you or anybody of Congress, and they shall not be infringed. Well, folks, I appreciate you joining me on this episode of The Rant. This Monday, 6th. The way this is going to be set up going forward is I'm hoping to do a couple episodes a week. So just check back in where you get your favorite, where your favorite place is to listen to podcasts. So that could be Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and many other places. You think iHeartRadio carries me now too. And all of those. Stitcher has me, I believe. So anywhere you like to listen to your podcast, I'll definitely be there. And we'll hopefully do a couple episodes a week. That's the plan. I'm not going to stick to a specific day because right now the schedule's a little bit crazy. We're in transitioning. I've been working a lot with my wife more too lately, as her business is starting to ramp back up again after being shut down from COVID. Thank the good Lord for that. And so that is the plan. Now, the other podcast, you can catch my other show, No Apologetics with David King. That show airs every Sunday with special episodes on Wednesday. It's not all the time, but it is some of the time. And you can catch it there. Oh, I just had something go down. I am so sorry, folks. Anyway, I thank you guys so much for being here with me, and I will catch you next time. If you have by the way, if you have some solutions or you have your own ideas about these mass shootings, what we could do to help prevent them, or maybe you absolutely hate the Second Amendment and you've got a good reason as to change my mind, you can email me at davidking.therant@gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on social media. You can go to the Facebook and hit me up at The Rant. You can also go on Twitter and find me there as well. Thank you guys so much for listening. I am glad to be back here, and I look forward to the next episode. Thank you, and have a good night.